Child, I guess Danielle found out this is what happens when you do one thing that Regina George don't like. Y'all, let's get into why she fell out with one of the plastics, honey. Let's talk about Orlando, episode 10 of Basketball Wives. What up, question crew? And we are back with them Florida wives, honey, with them wives from the swamp. I don't know, honey. We are on episode 10 of Basketball Wives Orlando, and we are, as usual, in the beginning, catching up with the crew. We start off with Morgan and her son playing a little struggle basketball in the rain, honey. You know, sometimes you got to get it in with the kids. When they want to play, you got to play, even when you don't feel like it. And she is showing him how it's done, or at least attempting to show him how to do some dunks on their property. And, you know, she's getting the best of him, actually. Morgan kind of getting it in and keeping up pace. But he ain't behind for long and lets her know, like, hey, you need to, I think you cheating. You need to not be trying to dunk on me because I'm only like 40. So we move on from Morgan and we see Neek sitting at a cafe, and she's sitting and she's FaceTiming with Milan. It appears that Milan is supposed to be meeting her, but Neek lets Milan know, like, where are you, girl? Like, I'm sitting here. And Milan goes, girl, I'm so sorry. I feel sick. I don't feel like, going out. And she's like, well, girl, why didn't you tell me that before I got in my car and drove over here? See Milan out here being flaky again. So Neek is like, girl, all you can do is say sorry because I'm already here. I got the drinks. I got everything sitting here and you know where to be found. Fast forward, we go to Ashley and Tony's house on the other side of town. And Ashley is walking into, it looks like their theater room to like kind of clean up or whatever. And she just like falls down on the ground. And she basically said like she's just physically worn out and it's like really caught up to her. It looks like her back is actually hurting. And she just feels like, she's drained from doing the businesses, the charity work stuff, the other stuff that they got going on with their sons, just being a full-time parent along with that situation. She's just drained and she really hasn't been taking any time for herself. And as a result, her body just gives out. And I know I can completely relate to like when you got a lot going on and you're not really giving yourself a break, and your body will always remind you that you need rest. And so Ashley calls in Tony, he helps her up off the floor and she's like, yeah, I gotta get some rest and I can't be playing no fake basketball anymore. That's not really me. And it's just taking a toll on her body. So she's feeling like she gotta find some way to adjust into whatever she's doing, or either just cut some things down, Ashley. You don't need to do everything. Meanwhile, Meghan across town lying to this lady that is a Reiki specialist, which is like a form of massage that they don't really kind of touch you as much. It's more like they go over your body. I think, when it comes to Reiki, I've had it done once years and years and years ago. Just like we hired somebody to do like massages for like this event I was at one time, but we hired two different people and we didn't know that the Reiki massage was that. We thought it was just like regular, back massages or whatever. And it kind of felt a little fake to me. I know some people really believe in it. I'm not saying that it's not something about pulling energy from someone's body or whatever, but for the price point that people be wanting, I don't be feeling it. Anyway, Meghan is convincing somebody for the 80th time that she is not the problem and it's her mama only. And she's sitting down telling this lady that, she feels like the Reiki would help her move on from the fact that her mama just wasn't there. When I tell you the level of denial that Meg being about her mama is crazy. See, my thing with Meghan is I feel like she plays on the mama thing with people who don't know her or know their dynamic, and it just makes her mom sound horrible. I'm sorry, I think I said this in my last review. I feel like Meghan plays around with the idea about her mom abandoning her because it's clear that this is a deeply rooted issue for her. But I felt like when we sat watching her mother and her finally have their conversation out, I feel like her mom did take accountability. And this is probably not the first time about the abandonment issues. She did say like, yes, it was my fault. I was not the person that I needed to be. I should have come back and gotten you. I should have been the responsible party. She said all those things. She also admitted to the fact that she was very young and did not make good decisions, but it made no excuse. She stated that the reason that they have a disconnect is because Meghan chooses to look down on her and their family. Like when she gets into a place where she's got a little bit of money or a little bit of fame, she treats them badly. It's not the other way around. So when Meghan keeps saying her mother needs to fix it, my question is, what are you looking to from her to get? Because the woman showed up. She showed up on camera to even, agree with you about the fact that she wasn't a good parent. And Meghan never gives real instructions. And when her mom gave her side, after apologizing and saying all of the things, she said, look, I feel like you look down on me though. and you treat me like I'm not anything, and you're then asking to have this relationship. Which one is it? You can't come into a situation and say, well, I want you to apologize, because she can't go back in time. But if she does apologize and says, hey, I'm trying to make amends in some small way, and then you treat everybody like trash. And her mother said, basically trying to tell Meghan, like, look, your family is what you have. So when these lights cut off and all this fame and nobody cares about you from the internet, and you doing hot takes or having like a controversial podcast, what do you have left? And that's what she was getting to her. And Meghan walked off when she started having those real conversations with her. So to me, whenever she comes up with this BS, with this storyline, and how easily she was able to articulate it to that woman, you could tell that this is a normal occurrence for her to be able to run down the sob story. I wasn't feeling it. I feel like Meghan needs to identify her own issues within that has more to just do than her mom leaving, which is that she seems to want to like lull it over her mother's head forever, and then say like, you have to make up for lost time, you have to make up for lost time. But what do you want her to do? What steps are necessary to move to the next place of that transition, which the mother has said that's what Meghan won't get to. And it's like, girl, what do you want from that situation? Anyway, moving on. Neek is with her family and they are at a bowling alley. So she hangs out with her family. Like her mom is there, her mom's partner who helped raise Neek. I think her name is Tynese. Her sister, and they're just bowling and having a good time. And Neek is having, multiple conversations about, how it's been going on with Dwayne. And she also talks to her mom and lets her know how everything went with Milan, because her mother's the one that suggested her and Milan talk. So they talked it out. She thinks that they're in a good place now. Her mom says it is important that, she had the conversation with her because she's the one that suggested it. And also is glad that Neek got out her feelings about everything and that her feelings are just as valid as Milan's. She stated that Milan told her, as we heard last time, that she doesn't really know. She's still learning how to be a good friend because she's been somebody who's been on her own for a very long time. So learning how to be a good friend, learning how to be somebody that's accountable for their actions is something that she's, trying to adjust, but she wants to work on. And then she also gets into the topic of telling Nick that, her points are valid about how she feels about Milan telling her business. But they then move on to Neek's dad reaching out. And apparently Neek's dad has not completely been in her life the whole time. Like her dad has mad kids a la Nick Cannon. And she basically is saying that over the years, he's been sporadic in her life, especially as things have sort of moved up for her. But it's a situation where their relationship is weird. Like on the one chance, she's wanting to get to know him and she doesn't hold this extreme grudge against him, but she's also felt like he hasn't made a serious effort as much as he needs to. And her mom points out that throughout Neek's entire childhood, she's always made an effort for her father to get to know her, or any of his, I think she only has one kid with him, but like, him having multiple kids has made it a problem, as well as the fact that she's made an effort for Neek to get to know him, but he hasn't always made the effort back and forth. And as a result, her partner, who is a woman, so I guess, Jacinda is a bi, and she basically is saying that the partner has been the one that really helped to raise Neek with her. And, the partner's like, yeah, I was there for that. So she's like, I was there when, she was trying to make the effort and he just wasn't doing it. But Neek says she wants to give him a chance. And so she's invited him to Orlando to see what's up. Child, so we head over to Danielle, and she is on the basketball court. And Danielle, is still stressed out because Rashad in the last episode served her with some paperwork about how she's dealing with their dynamic of co-parenting and how she's been, extremely unreasonable and a lot of stuff to do with her attitude and how it could affect her possibly having custody of her kids. So, she tried to reach out to Morgan during the last episode, but Morgan just refused to connect with her in any way and just sort of like pick up the phone. She's been texting her all week and she hasn't been hearing her. And it's really been messing with Danielle's psyche because Morgan is really the only friend she has here. And we're going to get more into that later because I have some feelings about the way Morgan be setting Danielle up, yo. Anyway, Danielle is trying to stay focused. So because one of her things that she really wanted to make sure that she did this season was she also wanted to focus on getting back to her in basketball. As a result, she is trying out today, I believe, with the regional basketball team of the Orlando Boom. And so this is really a tryout, and she really can't seem to focus, she feels like, and she doesn't want to mess up this opportunity because her ultimate goal, I believe she said, is that she wants to try to see if she can get into the WNBA. So she's practicing with them, and like she's with her, basically they're doing like a practice tryout game. And she's on the floor with the ladies. It seems to be going well, but we hear her kind of in the view talking about how the situation with Morgan, the situation with her ex is all like clouding her, and that can mess with her game, and she hates when that happens. I think she did pretty well with the ladies, but she's really disappointed that she didn't feel like she brought her full A game because of all the stress going on in her life. Fast forward to, honey, if there's one thing Ashley gonna do, she gonna have an event every single time, and she gonna let y'all know that she having an event. When I tell you Ashley is the one wife on this show, well, first of all, she may be the one wife on the show. I got to think about it. I think Lindsay's the other wife. Child, she's the one on this show that really is using the show for what you should use the show for when you're on here. Ashley gonna let you know she got a brand, honey. She gonna let you know she got products. She gonna let you, if there's one thing she gonna do is throw an event. So she is turning her pain into profit per usual. And she's linking up with local businesses in the area owned by other women to have like a wellness day for women in the community and other business women like herself, and including the girls on the show. So Ashley sends out a good old FaceTime letting the girls know, like, hey, I'm trying to do this wellness event with these local community businesses that, do stuff for health and wellness again. And she's letting the girls know to come on out because she wants, her business along with others are going to be sponsoring this wellness day to help them get back to themselves and take care of self-care. The girls link up and head on to the shop, honey. Everybody is in tow because what else they're going to do? This is what they call, she says. And so Ashley has connected with the local businesses. Neek shows up, and of course, she's going to use this moment. Another smart girl, to go ahead and put it on her IG. Milan is showing up. Nikki, all the girls are in tow, and Meghan is showing up. Not so much there to support Ashley, but to get into it with Ashley because she didn't like the way that Ashley came at her event when they were all last together. And she more and more of the girls are showing up to the wellness events. And, it's so weird to me because they zone in on Morgan showing up. And, of course, this is Ashley's event. We know Morgan hates Ashley. But the problem with this is that Morgan has no problem showing up to these different events, but she doesn't want Danielle to come. And she's upset that Danielle even asked her about the wellness event. Like, why are you here? Girl, why are you here? She's like, I thought we shared a mutual hate for Ashley. And Danielle actually doesn't have a mutual hate for Ashley because she didn't really know Ashley. She had a problem with Mackenzie, but her hate for Ashley comes from her relationship with Morgan. And the fact that Morgan is allowed to come to these events or feels like she should be able to come to these events for whatever reason she's saying she's coming, but it's not okay for Danielle to come, is one of the things I mostly hate about their relationship. And this is why I keep saying, stop building these relationships with these women and building friendship with these girls based on mutual hate for somebody else, because it's not a real friendship. And when they start having these real connections, or think when you don't do one thing right that the person wants you to do, or they don't like how you respond with the other person, that's when you really feel like your relationship is really built on sand. So anyway, but they're all showing up and walking around and taking advantage of the different vendors that are there. They start a conversation over at Lindsay, who was also vending. I think she has a skincare line. It looks like it's called Faithfully or something like that. I think it says Faithfully Skin, but I could be wrong. Anyway, they're over at the skincare line and they're talking to Lindsay, and Lindsay's just talking about how hard the pregnancy is and how she can't wait to have the baby, how she's sleeping. And Morgan tells her hey, you need to sleep on your side because it'll be a lot more comfortable, which many pregnant women do. And they even have pregnancy pillows for you on your side, because it will help with the pressure on your back and all of that. So they're having conversation about that. And then all of a sudden Meghan comes over and Danielle comes over, and, Latavia is still boring, honey, still talking about that baby. So either way, they're going through the motions. And all of a sudden, Danielle pops up alongside Morgan because they don't really care about Lindsay's skincare line, and they don't really care about um, Lindsay, to be honest. Danielle then says hey, as she's talking to Morgan, and Morgan kind of acts they've talked like just yesterday, oh, hey, whatever. She kind of says she wants to talk to her to the side, but Danielle doesn't seem to be getting the reception she wanted from Morgan. Anyway, on the other side of town, or at least the other side of the room, honey, here go Meghan, who showed up mostly to confront Ashley about the fact that Ashley didn't like her sex talk that she had during her podcast. Now, we already know that Nikki don't got no backbone and she's trying to stay in the show and have any friend. And so she's trying to bond with Meghan, even though during the event, Ashley was saying the comments that everybody else was saying about what was going on stage before and really defending Nikki. But because Nikki don't have no backbone, she wants to stay on the show. She don't really have no connection. She's trying to kiss Meghan's behind. She is now in cahoots with Meghan to try to call Ashley out. So she's trying to befriend Ashley low key to kind of get her to fall into like a conversation with her so Meghan could come over and confront her about the comments that were made. It was very corny, and it also just gave no type of backbone to me. Like the way Meghan apologized to Nikki was so lame, and it really was fake as hell. But it also just shows you that Nikki's so desperate to be on the show, she's not even saying enough for herself. Megan confronts Ashley, and she's having this conversation about how she didn't like how Ashley was talking about her event when she was there. That she basically got word that Ashley was making comments during the event that was uncomfortable. And Ashley was saying things like to the girls low key. She wasn't saying anything loud, but she was whispering little things in the group because they were all kind of disgusted with the fact that Four was up there, being that Nikki's supposed to be cool with Megan and not telling Nikki, having her up there, she was getting more and more uncomfortable. And Ashley was making these comments. Nikki was sitting right there, just like she was when they was at the Manny Petty spot, and ingesting all of that. But it's clear that she doesn't want to miss her spot in the show. So Megan says, so Ashley stands up in her stuff and says, like, yes, I was uncomfortable with what was going on. I wasn't really feeling the subject matter. She said, I didn't know what it was going to be about, but I wasn't really feeling the subject matter. And I felt like it was really not cool because his ex is sitting right there and you're having this conversation. And so, of course, Megan doesn't hear any of that and goes, well, I have a popular podcast and we talk about sex and that's what we do. And you can't act like a prude because I heard you had brothels at your house. Now, girl, I don't remember if Ashley actually said no to that. So it made me go, okay, girl, is there something you want to tell us? And then they kind of flash back to a scene where Milan is talking to the girls a little bit. And she mentions that, one time she went to an event that Ashley had. And when she went, there were like, there were players there. And there were like a lot of players that didn't come with their girlfriends. But Ashley had enough friends there for the players. I'm not really sure if that turns into like a brothel situation. Because brothels, from my understanding, like normally a term is dated as hell, but normally is when, men come into a place to, sleep with prostitutes that are already there in those spots. I don't know. It didn't feel like it was the same exact thing, but I think they were more so talking about maybe a sex party or something like that. I don't know. Either way, they get into it, but they really are talking about absolutely nothing. Because at the end of the day, Ashley didn't really want to be there. Meghan was messed up for what she did. She never really apologized to Nikki properly. She never takes accountability for her actions in a real way. I'm always playing on therapy words, but I'm not really serious about any of the actual growth parts. Fast forward, we move on, and the girls are now meeting up with Meghan. And by the girls, I mean Morgan and Nikki, and they're sitting down to kind of reflect over the event that they just had with Ashley and whatever's going on. And of course, they start talking about Danielle and Morgan not talking because it's kind of becoming obvious to people that she's acting weird with her. And essentially, she just says that, she feels some sort of way and side eyeing her because why are you showing up to Ashley's events? All the girls are showing up to Ashley's events. So Danielle can't do that at all. And she's like, well, why are you showing up? You're supposed to be my friend. Like, I don't trust her. And the fact that you're saying that you're cool with me, again, it's just Morgan being 12 again in the course of her relationships and not talking to Danielle like a grown woman, and also expecting something of Danielle that you're not expecting of any of the other women. And then using the best friend title abusively to have her like, I don't know, sort of do something that you're not doing yourself is crazy to me. They end up still talking in this circle of delusion, and Meghan talks about how she didn't even really know if what she said about Ashley was true. She just knows she got it from Morgan, and that's how she knew. So you just passing misinformation around the table amongst each other, and of course Nikki's just there, just trying to be down. Fast forward, they focus on Latavia having a baby photo shoot. When I tell you, Basketball Wives is as bored with Lindsay as we are because they gave her a slither of a minute. When I tell you a slither, honey. They showed that little scene and moved right on out of there. They do not care about the lady. They just literally are posting her at this point just to make sure that they get her in coverage. Fast forward, we go back to Meghan, who is having a conversation with her boyfriend about forcing this baby on him and trying to have this kid. The way that they're doing this just feels so inauthentic to me. I'm not saying that you have to have all these lightful moments because bringing a child is pretty serious, but it feels like Meghan just wants to have the baby to have something to check off her list and to quickly show like maybe even her mom about how good of a mom she would be versus her. It just feels like she's trying to check the baby off on a list. And that's not how kids work. Like eventually when you have this kid, it's going to really be about them. And a lot of the selfish energy she has is going to have to be shifted to that kid because they become the primary thing. If Meghan have a baby right now, that baby going to turn her on her ass. But that's just me. She's going to find out what it's truly like to be a mama. Fast forward to being a parent, we are meeting up with Neek and her daddy. And when I say her daddy, I mean everybody daddy, honey, because he got like 13 kids. And so Nika's sitting down to have a heart to heart with her dad about why he wasn't actively present in her life. He goes through the whole storyline about how he grew up poor. He didn't grow up with a lot. He grew up in the streets. As a result, the streets took him to jail. And when he got out of jail, Nick's mom had moved on, and he just feels bad about not being there for all of his kids. I will say that I do appreciate that he was more so in the place of accountability and being honest about where his life took him and why he couldn't be there. He talks about the fact that he had a lot of kids and he didn't have a lot of guidance growing up. So he basically was just hitting it, quitting it, moving on to the next one. And he did not grow up with a sense that you're supposed to come back and take care of this child. You have to raise this kid because he didn't grow up with his own, positive environment or parents that were a unit. So his mother was doing everything. And he just thought, like, if I just have a baby with this one, a baby with that one, then you go to jail, then you're not making any money and around for anybody. And they're growing up fatherless. So Neek says she understands that. She doesn't hold a grudge with him in that way. She does appreciate that he does try to reach out, and she also appreciates that he is attempting to be in her life now. But it is something that does sit with her because at the same time, not growing up with him, they don't have a close relationship. And building that bond is a little difficult when they get older. He also doesn't completely know the names of of Neek's kid. Her son's name is Kaiser. I think he calls him Kevin. And it's probably because he got so many damn kids, honey. Do y'all see what Nick Cannon was online the other day talking about? He spent $200,000 at Disney for them kids because he got so many of them that's how much he probably spends alone just to have a day alone with them. Just all this baby making everywhere. It's exhausting me. So Nick beating up with Dwayne, and this is one thing I do love about when you have a rational partner and you have somebody that's in your life that's like kind of talking with you and going through the motions with you, but also understanding what's happening. And to me, I really feel like Dwayne in this moment made me like him more because I appreciate how he was talking to Neek about her meetup with her dad. So she's talking with Neek. He's talking with Neek about what went down, and Neek is saying it's kind of unique and awkward to sort of, be sitting with her father talking about her kid and talking about how he was saying how proud he was of her and all of that kind of stuff. And Dwayne is a little more suspect about him. And I think maybe because he plays professional basketball and he's coming to a little bit of his own notoriety. He's like, oh, how much of that is really real? Because his feeling is like, you haven't really been around, so you don't really know me. And Nick even mentions the whole thing about him calling her son Kyle or Kevin, even though his name is Kaiser. And he's just like, you have to be mindful of people that are in your life now because of where you've moved as far as your station in life is concerned. Like, you've moved up a little bit, you've been popular on this YouTube thing for a while and made really good money. She had millions of followers before she even came on this show, and brand deals and things like that. And now this guy wants to be a part of your life. He has 12 kids. Like, he doesn't really know you. And she's like, yeah, and I understand that. And I don't think Neek is naive to it. I think she just doesn't like to hold a grudge for too long and feels like, okay, even if he wasn't there previously, I can allow him to be in Kaiser's life. I can allow him to be in my life. And we work things from a daily basis. Because that's really all you can do with somebody who's missed time with you. You can't really go back and get that time. And Dwayne said he understands that, but he worries more about the motives of the dad because did you just show up and now want to be like this really active figure? Because she said there were moments even before, obviously now, where he could have been in her life when she was younger. She made the opportunity. She wasn't that kid that was like, I don't want to talk to you. You've never been around. And he's like, Jacinda and Janae, I kept saying her name was Tiana or something like that, but the partner's name is Janae, who kind of acted as a second parent for Neek while she was growing up. And it's her mom's partner are the people that really raised her. And he was like, you have to be mindful of people that want to come in your life now towards the end. And now want to be really like, focused and be an active parent because what is the motivation? Like, honestly, I want to know, did Nick actually fly him out there? Like, did he fly on his own money or did she pay for him to fly out there? Like, I feel like she's not being naive. She's doing the right thing and trying to still press forward with him in a positive way, but she just needs to be cautious. And that's all Dwayne is really saying. Like, take your time, baby, because, people start showing about the woodworks once you start being successful. Fast forward, Morgan is meeting up with Danielle so they could have this ridiculous ass conversation about how Morgan needs Danielle to only be there for her and only be friends with her, but then I can change up whenever I'm falling into a mood or an attitude or to a phase of depression. I'm just not going to speak to you, and it's cool, and you should understand that. And this is where I have the problem. So, child, we finally meet up for this nonsense ass conversation. And per usual, I've been talking about the whole time. So let's get into why I feel like this Morgan and the Danielle debacle is some ridiculousness. So they start arguing about the exact same thing. Morgan feels like, how can she trust Danielle when Danielle's been going to Ashley's events and going to all the other events and feels like, how can I trust you when you know what I'm going through with my baby daddy, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, essentially what's really going on, and let's be completely 100 with it. Danielle really did herself a disservice by ostracizing herself from by not building more relationships with the other women. Because what's happening is Morgan basically isolated this girl to only be her friend. As a result, Danielle came in there with the energy with Mackenzie because she thought she had a backup queen in Morgan. And Morgan came in there with the energy for Danielle, but Morgan also built relationships with the other women. Danielle has failed to do that because she only been hanging out with Morgan. And Morgan didn't have a problem with that as long as Danielle was her lapdog. But now that Danielle and her are having beef, if you think about it, Danielle don't really have no other friends outside of this situation. And so it's really corny to me to Morgan to kind of keep using this loyalty thing when, girl, you've clearly built a relationship with other people and you found a way to still be around Ashley using the inch high private eye reason as to why you're sneakily going around her. You're still being able to show up to all these events. It means you get to tape at all these events. Why is Danielle not able to go over there and continue to show up on screen as well? Because that's what it's really coming down to. You're not wanting her to go to Ashley's events where everybody else is showing up, even if they get along with Ashley or not, is they understand the job, okay? And not wanting her in those scenes means that she's not on camera for those moments. That's why I keep saying be careful and beware about the situation. Really, Morgan want to be the only one to shine, and she don't have a problem with Danielle shining only when she backing her up in a fight. But they really not friends because I haven't seen her really support Danielle in the basketball thing. Like I haven't seen her show up for Danielle. Like she's been showing up for Lindsay for these baby appointments. She don't even know Lindsay. Latavia is new to the group, period. So for Danielle to be her BFF, I've never seen her just sitting down at a practice with her or just saying like, hey girl, let me know when your next practice is going to be. I'm going to just hang out and I'm going to just fake root you on. It's like she don't have a problem with Danielle being her cheerleader when it's just for her sake. But when it comes to them together, it just feels inauthentic when you keep using that scenario. Also, Morgan, why are you still running from this man? We never got no real solve about why she keeps trying to dip and dodge when it comes to the court order. I don't know why people think that you could just play around with the court system. They will eventually find you and they will just make a judgment without you being there. Especially in court cases, when you talk about like, lowering the amount of something. If somebody keeps filing for you to show up to court and you refuse to, and you keep dodging because you feel like if I don't get served, they can't do anything. That only works for so long. After a while, they could either put a guardian ad litem in place for your kids to represent them against your spouse or whatever they need to do to go ahead and lower that child support. So I don't understand what's the point of keep dodging this situation unless there's some other underlying thing that we're not knowing. Why are you switching home to home just to not get served to go to court about some damn child support? It's just not making sense to me. And the fact that Morgan is doing all of these other things in her life regarding this situation and expecting people to know how she's reacting to all of these things and what her actions are, like Danielle said, you're not communicating with me. You can't call me your best friend and then go, I'm supposed to know everything by osmosis. If something is going on with you and you're falling into a depression, you could simply send out a text to your friend that says, hey girl, going through a lot right now. I might not pick up my phone. Just know I'm okay. I love you and I'll hit you up as soon as I can. Something to let your friend know what's going on. But to just act like it's okay to go ghost on people and never let them know anything and they should just know what's happening is so crazy to me. And then, of course, when Danielle needs that support back from Morgan regarding her own situation, she's nowhere to be found, but you can show up to Ashley wellness event on time. Girl, get the hell out of here. So that's the end of the episode. They never come to any resolve. Danielle is pissed at Morgan and the audacity of feeling like you could do everything and be in full participation, but I'm supposed to be on the sidelines and begging for your attention and time. Morgan don't want to hear it because she don't have nothing to say that's not going to be an agreeable mode with her. And they just go back and forth. It started raining and Morgan decides she's not staying for the rest of the conversation. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Do y'all think that Morgan is being completely selfish or you think that Danielle is just taking things too sensitively? And what y'all think about Ashley and these possible, SEX parties? Let me know that in the comments and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.